On my last video, I said I was going to post one about equals MC squared and another equation. But, it's Friday, and I already had this slide made, so I'm just going to make this one, and this will be the third video of the reality series. So yin and yang, yin and yang is talking about opposites, right? It's always the opposites of anything, male, female, sun and dark, or light and dark, the moon and the sun. I don't know if I like the one on the right there, the earth and the sun. I don't think that the earth and the sun are necessarily opposites. And I found these yin and yang symbols a while back, and I can't remember where I got them. Really like the one on the left, kind of the dragon and the tiger. I'm not sure if those are opposing forces, but I don't know which one. I think you would consider the dragon female and the tiger male, if I were to guess. I guess you could swap those. I don't know. But yin and yang, can be the two main up forces that are at play are always heading towards the light and heading away from the light. And male and female are kind of the other two big yin and yang symbols. So let's get started. So like I, kind of covered in the first video, I think, is that frequency creates structure. And so information creates that structure. And the field is the energy that structure moves. And our little squigglies here trying to get into an egg are that process, right? Information is the male, the information, the male portion of the yin yang, and the female portion would be the energetic field, like on the upper right, where the male is on the left, the frequency. And so that comes together in everybody, because all of us have structure and energy. Otherwise, you wouldn't exist. Everything has structure and energy, or it doesn't exist. There's no energy there unless there's structure behind it. And so that's kind of the main thing. One does not exist without the other. And so, in a lot of ways, our society is going through identity crises. People are, this transgender movement has been so popular, and it seems like it's almost getting pushed on society, where the clothing that's being sold has been demasculated and defeminized. The women's clothing looks more like men's clothing, starting to look more like men's clothing, and vice versa. It's just it's goofy, right? But one thing that I heard that I didn't know before is they've never actually seen a sperm actually penetrating an egg. It's like one gets selected and then it just kind of merges with the egg. So think about that for a little while. Why does that happen? But the egg is always ready before the sperm, right? That's why women mature before men, because you have to have that container ready before the information's ready. So in a lot of ways, our society reflects that in the way that cryptocurrency is trying to be decentralized before we actually decentralize in our structure as a community, because our communities are going to decentralize. They have to in order to function correctly. You can't have centralized control in a community and have it work well. So think about that on a grander scale. Not only are you as an individual, the women are growing up and maturing early, which is why you see so many women are maturing and becoming more spiritual early on in the overall spectrum of this world. Men are catching up slower. In most of the spiritual communities, you'll see they're predominantly mostly women. There's a smaller number of men because women mature before men do, right? Which is why currency has matured into decentralization before our actual structure of society. So let's go to the next slide. And this is just a simple slide. Your DNA is showing you the structure that you are, and your structure changes, in order to move more energy. as we evolve, your structure actually has to change in order to move more energy. The more complicated the structure, the more energy that moves, which is kind of indicated by these, series of chemicals down here. If you look from the left hand to the right hand, they're all giving different energy or different frequency signatures, and they're all stacked sets of frequencies because it's actually putting stacked sets of structures together. That's how reality works. It doesn't matter what you're looking at. It's always a set of frequencies that's describing a structure, a stacked structure that's moving a specific amount of energy. And so measuring frequency on a structure is giving you the best indicator of how much energy that structure is moving, because you're actually looking at the sine wave, the stacked sine waves of that structure. And I always put pictures of trees, right? Trees are everywhere. You can learn so much from trees. I will make a video about interdimensional reality, higher dimensions. And just by looking at a tree, it's still telling you that story. Your family lineage. Let's say you're the descendant of hundreds of thousands of people. It's being, that tree is giving you that same image, and when you map it out, you're seeing all the characteristics and all the energy, all the structures of all your ancestors are being put together to make you in order to move more energy. That's actually kind of what we're going through in this evolutionary process. All your ancestors are with you at all times, because you are the product of what they were trying to create, right? A more complex structure to evolve and grow. Every single species is like that, as you keep combining more and more genomes in order to create more and more complex structures until ascension happens, right? It's like slapping a circuit breaker. So let's go to the next slide. I really like this slide because it just shows the attraction between male and female. There's always an attraction between male and female. It doesn't matter if you're gay or whatever you are. It's always a male energy being attracted to a female energy. So, and even if you're male and female, the female might be predominantly have more masculine energy, and the male might have predominantly more female energy, and that's why you're attracted to each other. There's so many different ways, laws of attraction, but it's always, the law of attraction is always opposites attract, right? So the male energy is always being attracted to female energy. So if you have predominantly male energy, you're going to be attracted to something that has predominantly female energy, and vice versa. It's very rare that you see two predominantly female energies attracted to each other, or predominantly male energies attracted to each other, regardless of how you physically look, right? So that's the easiest way that I can explain, right? I mean, that's pretty much how everything works. And if, and you're constantly sharing information and energy and trying to close that circuit breaker all the time. And the easiest way to help relationships grow is the more vulnerable you are, and share as much as yourself with each other as possible. So there's that, the yin and yang of relationships. This is a simple slide. I put the worm up here primarily because worms are both male and female, and I think a worm can self-reproduce. If there's no other worms around, it can kind of have sex with itself and then produce another worm. So, they're hermaphrodites. Worms are just like that. And then, I put the plants there because, plants are kind of the male information, or the conductor that's moving energy into the female earth. Plants obviously have their own field, so they have their own female energy, and you're seeing the male structure there. So anytime you're looking at anybody, you're looking at a structure that has a feminine field behind it, an emotional body behind it. And that's why men predominantly are more logic focused, and women are more emotionally focused, so women have much higher emotional intelligence a lot of times than men do, because men aren't used to living in their emotional body as much. They're used to living in their mental body more. And so you have to balance those two in order to really come into a higher state of awareness with yourself. And the Earth's, field there, we're looking at the structure of the Earth versus the electromagnetic portion, the female portion of the Earth. And finally, we've got our galaxy, right? So you're always moving towards the light or away from the light. And something that I posted recently is you have to have a resistance of moving towards the light, or else everything would just collapse into one consciousness immediately. So there has to be an opposing force. And so that toroidal field that we see, if you look at it in the bottom right there, you have a force moving towards the center and then a force moving away from the center, and but it all ends back at the center. It comes from the center and to the center at the same time. So there's always competing forces. There's always things pulling you apart and moving you closer together. And as long as you keep walking forward, you'll keep moving forward to light. As soon as you quit, as soon as you give up, then you stop working towards building bigger and bigger relationships. You're building bigger and bigger families, and you're connecting in larger and larger groups. That's the reality, right? That's how you move more energy, is a more complex structure. So I'm going to leave with that with you guys today. So anything that you guys think of where you feel like there's a resistance to the people around you, because that's how you grow and that's how you move towards the light. And unless you're expressing the way you're feeling about someone, they're not going to know, right? You have to have an interchange. You have to exchange energies and take ownership of that. And that's something that I am personally growing, working on a day-to-day thing. You have to learn to express yourself and what you need and what you want in order to keep moving towards the light, because there's always going to be a resistance. No matter how far you go forward, there's always a resistance, and it's always a point of suffering. There's always a barrier and a fear of moving forward to getting closer. So thanks for watching this video, and I want you guys to have a wonderful weekend. If you see this video on a Tuesday, hopefully you have a good weekend, the following weekend. So